Hey everybody, welcome to the Joe Pa podcast. Today I got got Bobby Barton with me, former retired chief, Air Force Reserve Command, gained by AFSOC. So the majority of both of our work, even though we were reservists, was with AFSOC. So yeah, we'll be having that conversation. And you, Bobby, are episode number 13.
That seems so entirely appropriate.
So if anything bad is going to happen, it's probably going to be on this one. So we'll stay on some of the dirt roads.
Good call.
Yeah. All right, Bobby, say hey to everybody out there.
Hello to everybody out there.
And I'm back.
I guess welcome to Joe Pa's show.
Yeah, welcome to the Joe Pa podcast. So yeah, in answer to your question earlier, yeah, I run a podcast, and so far I'm tracking quite well on it. We'll see.
Good. It's nice to see somebody getting success out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, the success is I enjoy doing it. And, yeah, I'm not going to quit my day job anytime soon.
I'd rather not quit mine either. I got you.
All right, so you and me, and dude, I just got to thinking about this earlier this week. You and me met 23 or 24 years ago.
Been a stretch right before everything kicked off.
Yeah, and that, well, yeah, it's nuts because I came into the reserves here at Duke Field. I think November of 2001.
Yeah, that was right after everything kicked off. Then.
Yeah, just after. So you, I think, had already been out the door a couple of times. But...
Not for that one. I did not actually leave for Uzbekistan until January, but I'd been already handling deployments, so I was elbows deep in everything that was going on.
Gotcha.
So when they sent the first batch of guys out, I was the UDM that put it all together. And I mean, of course, they're the ones that went and did all the work, but
right.
I'm one of the ones that got them out the door to go do the work, helping them with the training and all that.
Okay. Well, you and me are about the same age. I'm November of 70. What are you?
January of 71.
Okay. Gotcha. So yeah, we're within like 4 months of each other.
Thereabouts.
So what? Let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
You being a reservist, the assumption is that you were probably born in this area, I guess.
I was actually born in Jasper, Alabama, and my parents were military.
Okay.
And my mom stayed up in Jasper. My father joined the Air Force, and he ended up as a radar tech in Guam. And he PCS'd over there in 71.
Okay.
She had me and followed over shortly thereafter, I think in July or August of 71. And I spent my first 3 years in Guam.
Did you? Wow. I graduated high school in Guam. I vaguely remember you telling me at some point that you'd been to Guam.
Yep.
But
ages passed. I don't remember a thing about it, but my mom's got all kind of stories. So apparently I've been to Japan. I don't remember any of it.
Yeah. So you're out in Guam for the first few years. What? Any brothers? Any sisters?
I have a half-brother, and I have a stepbrother. My stepbrother he's about 3 years younger than I am. He's a 74 baby.
Okay.
And that came from my mom's second marriage.
Okay.
And my half-brother, of course, second marriage. My youngest brother, Shane, he was born in New York in 79. So.
Okay, gotcha.
So a couple of brothers, and depending on how you look at it, I guess I have a couple of stepsisters hanging around out there from my mom's third marriage, but we don't want to get into that. We don't want to make this sound worse than it is.
No, you're good. You're good. So, childhood growing up, I mean, did you guys move around a lot?
When I was little, I remember vaguely moving, but I don't remember anything about it. I remember being in one place, and then my father and my mother got divorced in 74, so I was pretty young when that happened.
Okay.
And then my dad and my mom got married in 75. And I make that distinction because my father pretty much disappeared out of my life at that point. And my stepdad really stepped up to the plate and raised me as his son. He did an amazing job with something he did not have to do.
Right.
It's I don't know, you can name the song, you can call it heartwarming, whatever you want. I'm just so thankful for that.
Oh, absolutely. That's
every child needs a father in his life. And my dad stepped up to the plate and he just covered down on all of it. He did a great job.
Yeah. No, that's squared away, because even, and we experienced that being an adopted family and doing foster care, in that, hey, love is a choice.
It is.
And a lot of people tend to forget that. They're thinking, ooh, if I've got flesh and blood, that makes everything, better. But, love is a choice. And so, yeah, good on him. That speaks to his character.
Well, I'll even add in that, this was the 70s. This was not a normal thing back then. Back then, stepchildren and divorcees, that was all very not awesome,
Yeah.
But that just never was part of the picture for me.
Okay. So when she gets remarried to this guy, who basically takes you in as his own, where are you guys living at that
So at that point, believe it or not, my mother had already joined the Air Force herself because she needed a job because her husband had left and all this.
Right.
So she got stationed in Blytheville Air Force Base in Arkansas.
Okay.
And she met my dad there, and that they got married there.
Was he Air Force too? I'm assuming.
He's an Air Force officer, so
Sure
nowadays not so cool, but
yeah.
Nowadays not such a cool thing. But back then, no one really batted an eye at it. And then so she got married, and when he PCS'd, he went to upstate New York. He went to Syracuse to a recruiting station.
Okay.
And my mom, of course, followed him, and she joined the Air National Guard in New York to avoid any command relationship stuff.
Yeah.
And she was just looking to raise a family and start a career up there. So.
Okay.
And that's where my youngest brother was born. My middle brother came he was my dad's son from a previous marriage that he had recently gotten out of.
Gotcha. Do you guys get along pretty good?
Of course not. We're brothers.
Yeah. I can attest to that with my crew.
Oh, yeah. That's normal.
It was fun because I grew up an only child, so and that sucked. If you're thinking of doing that to your kid, don't.
Have a second one, if only just because.
Yeah, shoot. But
and don't wait too long.
Yeah, my boys beat the freaking mess out of each other.
Yep.
Holy cow!
But it teaches them young how to deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it does.
Before they can actually hurt each other.
Yeah. So, all right. So, at what point do you guys actually end up coming down this way?
So, fast forward a few years, my dad got stationed down at Patrick, and my mother was looking to, move her career around. She was actually stationed in Charleston, working for a medevac unit up there.
Okay.
Dad decided he wouldn't be on active duty anymore, so he found a air reserve technician billet up here at Dick Field.
Really?
He ran the MPF up here for a while, and he was basically, we moved to Crestview at that point in 1985.
Okay.
And we came to Crestview. I went to Crestview High School, graduated out of Crestview High School, met my wife in Crestview High School. And I went to the recruiter. Initially I'd actually gone by myself. I just wanted to, go figure this out, figure out what I'm going to do, how I'm going to lead my life. And the military had just always been a piece of my life, so it just made perfect sense to me to go that direction.
Right.
And I got down there.
Hold on. We got to slow down just a little bit because we're skipping ahead.
Okay.
Good student through high school?
Moderately. I came out with a B average, so not great, but not bad.
Well, you could be better than what I thought. What,
Thanks.
That came out wrong. Oh, that's what we call a Freudian slip. Yeah, insulting your guest. Man.
I don't think you can insult me. I grew up around gunners, so.
So what, how about sports? Any athletics?
Actually, I never really did anything outside of ROTC in high school.
Okay.
My parents were pretty busy. I did not have a driver's license until a little bit later.
Okay.
And we had a farm, and so I was busy tending animals all the time. And if you've ever worked on a farm, you know that is 24/7 ops.
Yeah, my kids are learning that with my pseudo farm.
Well, we had some cattle, we had some horses, we had some chickens, we had just a few of a lot of different things. I think Dad was trying to figure out which way he wanted to go when he got out of the military.
Gotcha.
And it kept me occupied. There was a lot to do every day when you're dealing with that. So.
Yeah. Okay. So obviously the growing up in a military family, I think like I did, you're kind of, I don't want to say programmed, but you definitely have that probably in the back of your mind. What was it that? So you were getting into why you enlisted. What was it that started getting you thinking that way?
Believe it or not, it was a teacher when I was in third freaking grade in upstate New York. He figured out, or she figured out, I was having trouble reading. Right? It was more because I didn't have the right glasses than anything else. But she kept putting books in front of me and asking me questions about them.
Okay.
And she put the book, and it's going to sound cheesy as can be, but 30 Seconds Over Tokyo in front of me. The Doolittle raid. And it was made for kids. It read like it was made for kids. I was engrossed. I just fell right into that, and I'm like, wow, this is so amazing. And it really sparked my fascination with aviation in general.
Okay.
And so I could not read enough books about airplanes from basically that point on. And for the life of me, I don't know if it's just the way I am or what, but I cannot remember that woman's name, and I wish I could.
Wow.
I would love to thank her for that. But that is really where I can point to where this became a thing for me.
Okay. No, that explains a lot, because, my fascination was, as a ground pounder, and that's the route that, with the exception of a few years when I did RPAs, that's just what it was. So that explains, why you ended up doing what you did. So, okay. So you started getting with a recruiter.
Yeah, I was still a senior in high school, and I went over to go talk to the recruiter. I'm not even sure my dad knows this, but I'd been talking to them about going in, and they were like, you want to go security forces, you want to go to age. They put out like 4 or 5 different jobs in front of me. And I said, no, I want to be a gunner, because that's what I'd heard about, right?
Yeah.
I'd never heard of a loadmaster at that point. And then my dad, talking to him about it, he's like, well, instead of going active duty, because I've been talking about joining the military, I hadn't mentioned the recruiter yet. And he said, well, instead of active duty, you're going to go to college, and you're going to do that by going to the reserves here at Duke Field. And I said, okay, why? And he explained the benefits and all that go along with, GI Bill and what you would have to do to get that and all this. And I was like, okay, but I want to fly. I want to be a gunner. And he goes, yeah, why not look at being a loadmaster? I'm like, sure. I'd never heard of this before, no idea. He takes me down to go see Sergeant Peralt down there at the recruiting shop on Duke Field. Mr. Peralt lays this book, the job guide for air crew and all this other stuff in there in front of me. And it's like this boring as can be explanation of what a loadmaster does. It's like a civilian PD, where it's 12 miles of words that describe every possible thing you can do,
right,
followed by plus whatever duty is appointed to you by the commander. And I'm like, sure, whatever. It's flying. That's what I was after.
Right.
And got in there, and that's really how I began. That was the career advice my dad gave me. He was like, why don't you look at being a loadmaster instead? We didn't need that, did we? I want to pause that.
Oh, yeah, no, it's good. Hey, we just have a technical difficulty here.
I didn't see anything.
The loadmaster just threw his mic. Yeah, it's your microphone. All right, we are going to have to pause this. All right, we're back up.
And now you see what I'm noted for.
All right, so Mike's up and running again, and we are good. So.
Here's hoping. I'll hold on to it better.
So, and so this whole time, when your old man is talking to you about the reserves, he's talking about up here at Duke. I'm assuming. Okay.
Yeah, he was talking about Duke. He worked out at Duke. I think he was worried about me going active duty and just going active duty and just disappearing into that realm. And
right.
He wanted a little bit of not control so much as just knowing what I was up to.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things where I tell guys all the time, hey, you know what? Active duty's great. Bonuses are good if you're doing one of those jobs that has a bonus and all that stuff. But if you're not quite sure, or you're contemplating college, dip your toes in the water doing the reserves. And then if you decide, this is for the edification of guys out there that are kind of pondering, hey, which way should I take? Should I do this? Test the waters, and then if you decide, hey, I just love being on active duty, you can either be a man-day bum like I did for...
Or me, that was a good job.
Years, yeah, or, and then go active duty, or, whatever the case might be. So you had the pulse of what was going on at Duke back in the 80s. I mean, what was going on back in Duke? Because I'm like...
So, the flying side of the house, these guys, you have all these Vietnam veterans in there. You have all these guys that have been flying airplanes for 20 years or more. The flying piece was amazing. These guys knew their business. The flight engineers alone had more knowledge about the airplane than I think some of the engineers that actually designed the airplane. These guys were just so intelligent about how all these systems worked together and how one thing affected the other. The flying piece was amazing. The rest of the Duke field at the time, I mean, I don't know what the right way to put it is without making it seem bad, but it was definitely stereotypical of a reserve unit from the 1980s. There were a lot of, good times being had during UTAs. They were getting their training done. They were staying up on all the requirements, but then they would follow it with a keg party at the end of the UTA. It was always something going on out there, cookouts or campouts, or we'd all go down to somebody's house for their boat party that afternoon or what have you. There's always something. So socially, it was really cool, and it was a lot for an 18-year-old kid to step into, because you see all this going on, this whole subculture that's been built up out here at Duke. And it was amazing to me. Like, you would come out here at Duke Field on a UTA Friday night, and there would be 2,000 people at Duke Field.
Wow.
And only about 1,000 of them would be reservists. It would be other people that were coming down because of the club at Duke, where they'd have a party going or something like that.
Gotcha.
And it was just, every UTA was like that. It was amazing. There's just hundreds of people back before, we had all these restrictions that were brought on for base access and all that, but, because of 9/11. But it just, I don't want to make it sound like it was a huge party at every turn, but there was a lot of...
Sounds like it was a huge party.
There was a lot of partying going on.
It was the 80s.
It was the 80s, and people weren't quite as worried about such things, I guess.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. What platforms were out on the, what kind of iron was out on the runway at that time?
So at Duke Field, the only thing you had were A-model C-130s. You had the Slicks. We had 2 of them at the time. And then you had 10 A-model gunships.
Wow.
So these were all old. They were old when they turned them into gunships as far as the Air Force was concerned. But they were 30-year-old aircraft by the time I'd gotten to them.
Okay.
So they're not the newest of machines. Most of them were 40 years old by that point. I'm sorry. So they were...
Oh, yeah, that's an old freaking platform.
They were all built in the mid-50s.
And
amazing? This was 1989, 1990, 91 when I first started working with them. So they're already 40-year-old aircraft. But I'll tell you, compared to what I saw at Little Rock, these things were pristine. It's like guys were taking care of their Corvette or their Mustang or whatever.
Right.
They were always clean. They were always very well maintained. The maintenance guys took great pride in every airplane out there. All of them knew the history. We had a couple of planes that had the same primary dedicated crew chief on it that had been the crew chief on it since Vietnam.
Isn't that crazy?
It is amazing.
You don't see that in active duty.
And you don't. And you won't see it anywhere. You can't see it in active duty. Those guys rotate too much.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't even think you see it a whole lot in reserve and guard units anymore.
Yeah.
I think the culture has shifted so much that that's just not something that's important.
Yeah.
And I wish it was.
So you, so what year did you finally, you went in 90?
I went in 89. I finally got my check ride in January of 90.
How was basic for you?
I had a little adjustment, which surprised even me, because I don't know. I went in under the 2-week program. I lost that within about 2 days of being there. And then I flipped on, I got mad and said something I shouldn't have to the MTI. And she promptly put me in my place and recycled me.
Oh!
So I got recycled after being on the 2-week program. Then I report to my new flight, and I haven't even made it through the door with paperwork. I hadn't even made it through the door. And this new female TI walks up to me, sticks her Smokey the Bear head under my nose, flips it up and goes, "Do not unpack. I don't take recycles. You will be gone within 24 hours. I was shown a bunk. I put my stuff down in the bunk. She told me to go to sleep. The next morning, she told me to get dressed, marched me back downstairs, and parked me back in the recycle line again. And I sat there for about, I don't know, it seemed like forever, but it was probably about 2-3 hours. And they had me in this briefing room. And this staff sergeant walks in and he's like, "Tell me what happened here." And I told him exactly what I just told you.
Right.
And he looks at me and goes, "She did what?" And I said, "She told me that she didn't take recycles. I have been down here since then." And he goes, "Huh. Okay, stay here, don't move." It seems like another 2 hours went by. It's probably 15, 20 minutes. And this master sergeant comes in, and I'm this scared to death 18-year-old kid that realizes he's done screwed up because I've got all these stripes hanging around me. And he looks at me and he goes, "Okay, tell me what's going on." And I told him the story again. And it was funny because he made like basically the same sound. He's like, "Huh. Okay, don't go anywhere. Stay right here." And I'm like, "Yes, Sergeant." And this captain comes back about 15, 20 minutes later, and he tells me what I told these other two guys. And he goes, "Is this the case?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he goes, "Don't go anywhere. Stay right there." I'm like, where am I going to go?
Yeah.
And about an hour later, they bundle me up and take me to another training flight, park me in with Tech Sergeant Alvarez, who was my MTI, and I never had another problem.
Huh.
Basic actually got to be where it was sort of fun. I enjoyed myself, but I had to have that attitude readjustment, and I absolutely deserved it. I don't remember what I said, but I know it was, it's not something you're going to want to say to an MTI.
Right.
So they put me back in, and I did fine after that. Never had another problem.
That's
But
funny.
I got recycled twice within a week.
God.
I got recycled twice within 24 hours.
My old man was in the Navy. They called them company commanders. And my dad was a company commander up at Great Lakes, for all you Navy cats out there. And I was those were the years whenever I was like, I think probably 11 to 13 or 14. And yeah, so by the time I was headed to basic, because my first branch was the Navy, he had me dialed in just from life living with an MTI or a company commander, if you will. But so all right, so you end up rolling back to Duke Field.
Yep.
Late.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It actually didn't affect my training profile a whole lot.
Oh, okay.
I think they had to roll me back like to the next class, but
Gotcha.
I guess it wasn't a huge issue. Nobody yelled at me about it, so.
Gotcha. Okay. So how does that go whenever you roll into your unit? Do you go straight back to Duke, or do you go to your?
I actually went up to Shepherd and did basic loadmaster up at Shepherd.
Okay, gotcha.
Did fine there. Came back to Duke, and then did some in processing here, and then went up to Little Rock for my 130 course. And because of the way that they called us out for that, they only sent me through just the basic 130 course. I was what amounted to pro qualified flyer. I wasn't a mission qualified guy. For the gunships, your mission qual was, of course, the gunship platform. So I went to Little Rock, got qualified up there, but like I said, I got hired in at Duke Field as a loadmaster. I wasn't really planning on, I wasn't really projected to go to the gunships. I was just going to take the slicks and follow behind,
right?
Taking parts and whatnot, chasing broke airplanes and taking people where they need to be. So that was my job. And when, of course, you had Desert Storm kick off, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, I was just moving cargo and people all up and down the East Coast for all of that.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
It was pretty educational for me.
Oh, I imagine. Shame that you were just hauling trash at that point and not getting a chance to go over.
Yeah, it's probably for the better, because it gave me a chance to really hone myself and hone my skill sets in the airplane. So
yeah, gotcha.
That I was really too new and frankly too immature to really be put in that position at 19 years old,
Gotcha.
20 years old.
So, all right. So, did you even? Obviously, your dad's his intent was for you to go to college. Did you even Did you even try to go to college?
Sure did. I enrolled after the summer after I got back from Little Rock. I enrolled at the time, Okaloosa Walton Junior College, now the Northwest Florida State College.
Right.
And started hacking away at my AA degree. And I was going through there when everything, like I said, Desert Shield, Desert Storm kind of put a hiccup in my plans, like everybody else.
Right.
And then took the semester, I finished the semester I was in, and then pretty much everything from December on was just flying constantly in support of that, moving people and cargo up and down the East Coast.
Okay.
Basically moving from wherever they were based up to McGuire so they could transload from us to something else and haul it overseas.
Gotcha.
And then reversing the process as things, people started coming home.
So you ended up being on active duty for what?
Well, I never got activated. I was just on man-days.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So, and at the time, that was, you got a man-day to go do this, and you went home, and that was the end of your man-day. It's not like today where they'd cut you 365 or 30 days worth of man-days. It was, here's a man-day. Go away and come back later on,
Gotcha, okay.
And there was none of this stringing it together business.
Alrighty.
Man-day bumming involves a lot of flying.
Gotcha. What at this point, once you're done with that, what happens? Back to school? Do you get yourself a job?
Yeah, pretty much back to school for the rest of. I started back in earnest to college again in the summer semester of '91 with that gap there for the spring, and then kept slugging away at that. Got married in July of '92 to my high school sweetheart. We'd been dating since we were 17 years old. We're still married today.
Nice, congrats.
And we had a child right after that. And I was going through college, but we got married probably a little bit too young. She was going to nursing school. I was still in college. Had a child a little bit younger than what we probably should have, so we weren't really either one of us financially prepared for it. But we made it work. It was a happy time, I like to think, for the two of us.
Right.
Learning how to live life. And I think it actually, everybody's got things they think they could have done better, but I can't really complain about any of that. I think that went really well.
Well, I think, especially when you look at the demographic today of men, or shall I say boys that look like men, with no responsibility. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but the sad fact of the matter is guys don't get it until they get married and have kids, and my, two of my sons are already married with kiddos, and it
changes your perspective on things.
It does, and for the better. And I think you're more productive to society, and you're not being a drain, and that may be drastic, for some people, but the fact of the matter is hey, getting married and having children, if you're not already on that route to becoming a man, it kind of speeds it up for most.
Well, like I said, it shifts your perspective. Now, your responsibility shifts from taking care of yourself to taking care of this whole person that is utterly dependent on you for everything.
Oh, yeah.
And it's terrifying and so extremely rewarding all at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, I'm surprised I haven't killed a couple of my kids.
They're really hard to kill. I've dropped a few of them. They're pretty resilient.
They are remarkably so. So, all right. So once you get so did you end up getting your 4-year degree or no?
Not right there. I got to my AA degree. That took a little bit of a stretch, but I had picked up a couple of civilian jobs along the way because you got to pay the bills, right?
Right.
And that necessitated working a little more. That took more time, and of course, college isn't free. So paying for my wife's college, paying for my college, it just slowed things down some. So we decided to focus on getting her a degree so she could get her nursing degree.
Right.
And that happened first. That took a little bit longer than we'd planned, but it happened first. And she started working as an LPN for a little while, and then she went to go get her, I got that backwards. She went to get her bachelor's degree first, and we leaned into that first. She got her degree in public health education, and then she went back and she got her LPN somewhere through there. I can't exactly remember the dates and how that all worked out.
Right.
But she got her LPN, but she promptly took that and went to go to the now Okaloosa-Walton Community College up there and hit a bridge program to get her RN, and she leaned into that. Once she got that going, I started looking around for a bachelor's degree in information sciences, so computers at the time.
Okay.
And of course, I started getting that. I found the art job at Duke Field. Things started really coalescing for us, coming together pretty well. We bought a house. This is along about 1998, 99. Aaron graduated, and then
explain real quick the art program.
So the art program is an air reserve technician, and essentially you are a civil servant performing the functions necessary to keep a squadron working in between drills. Now you are required as that civil servant to maintain your military affiliation. So in my case, I was hired as a GS9 sitting in a master sergeant billet, but at the time I was a tech sergeant when I got hired because I didn't have all the squares filled to make master yet.
Gotcha. No, that's a good job, especially 95 now, or you said what, 98 time frame?
This was 2000. I actually got hired, but I actually got told, we applied for all this and went through all the interview process through 99. The process is not any faster now. It still takes 6 to 8 months to actually do your first hour of work. But this is a nice little stretch. I got to come down here and find this.
You never been out here?
No, what is this one?
That's Boiling Creek.
Ah. Okay.
No, this is from my days of whenever I was out here at the the 6th Ranger Training Battalion. We ran all up through here.
See, that's the whole issue. That whole running thing. You can have that.
This is River Road. So, but all right. So then, So you nailed the art job, which was, I did the art thing, as you know, for a while, and
that job really set my foot on a firm ground.
Yeah,
it was definitely a great place to start off at. I really can't complain about it. I had some very good mentors that came up and helped set me up for success all the way through that. Don Dew, Don Mazerat, Dave Peel, all of them just really were right there to help out. Kenny McDowell was a big individual helping out. Even Tyler Out, Chief Out nowadays, was a really big mentor for me at that age. And they were all working around there at the time. So it was between the mid '90s was a bit of a transitional period for Duke Fields. When the gunships went away, we transitioned to the P model C-130s, Combat Shadows in '94, and the 5th SOS stood up.
Okay.
And then in '95, the gunships went away from the 711th, and we transitioned to the Combat Talon. And we stood the Combat Talon up we had crews ready in '96, and I think they went on IOC in '97, if I'm not mistaken. I was just a line flyer at that point, so all that's kind of somebody else's issue for that.
Gotcha.
At that stage.
For guys that don't know, because when my only experience with C-130s in the 90s was jumping out of them. And I couldn't tell you a Combat Shadow. At that point, I couldn't tell you between a Combat Shadow, a Talon, Talon 1, a Talon 2. Obviously, we knew what the gunships were, but what were the differences between for the audience?
So these are all
Shadows and Talons.
Special operations variants of the C-130. The Combat Shadow was mainly designed to refuel special operations helicopters. They did a lot of airdrop, they did a lot of carrying cargo, but they were mainly set up to support search and rescue and special operations missions involving helos. The Combat Talon was a dedicated low-level penetrator. It had the ability to refuel helicopters, and we did a lot of that. But our main mission involved going into places where people didn't want us to be and dropping stuff, cargo, people, leaflets, whatever. And that's really what we were training to do with that airplane, was get into denied airspace and do what we needed to do. Gotcha.
Good deal. All right, so we're trekking through the 90s, peacetime for the most part, unless you're hitting Bosnia or out in that area.
Got to go there, 98.
Okay. All right, so that's your. Was that considered a combat deployment for you guys?
No, it was considered combat support.
Okay.
And I got to backtrack just a little bit. I did go to Haiti in '94 with the gunships and the combat support for that one.
Did you?
And we had our fangs out. We all wanted to shoot something. It worked out that Jimmy Carter got in there and kept anybody from getting hurt unnecessarily.
Gotcha.
But I went down there for that. The 919th sent 3 airplanes initially, and then I got tacked on with the next batch of airplanes to go in. And we set up camp down there, and we were all ready to, jump in and dogpile and invade this place. And President Carter came down and cut a deal with Mr. Sadris, who was the guy that was running the country at the time. And then it became a stability operation. We went over there to basically just provide cover and ISR support. Amounted to armed ISR at the time. Not something that existed. I don't think it was called that, but that's what we were doing. And we flew quite a bit down there from September on through about the end of November when they sent us all home.
So funny story, I was going through PLDC, which at the time, that was Army, primary leadership development course. Same thing as ALS for you guys.
Okay.
And so there's a young man going through PLDC with me, and it turns out the only time up to that point that he had ever landed in an aircraft was when he was with the 82nd Airborne, and they were getting ready to jump into Haiti, and they called it off, and they went back up to Bragg and landed. And that was
they had all those planes in the air and everything when they called it all off.
Oh yeah, I mean those guys were ready to get something.
Everybody had their fangs out. We were all ready, and then nope, change plans. You guys go back.
But yeah, every plane he'd been in up to that point, he had jumped out of. So yeah, that was a
little nerve-wracking for him. We had the most expensive pizza delivery service in the Caribbean down there. We would have to, when we would go over there, we had liaison teams on the ground at the airport. And so we would fly in and we would drop off, whatever supplies, whatever people we had to take over there. And we would coordinate. There was a pizza shop in Gitmo where we were based out of, and we'd get like 6 or 8 pizzas together, and we'd fly over there and we'd offload whatever cargo and people we had, and we'd hand them the pizzas. Oh, they were happy to see us. To this day, Haiti remains the only country I've ever flown into that I knew they were in their airspace, that I was in their airspace by the smell.
Oh, wow.
That place, unbelievable. And it's, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just different. It was like, I've been to a lot of different countries that had a different smell to them based off of the environment around me, but that one you knew before you ever touched down.
Yeah, Haiti is something else. I've been there a couple of times. What, all right, so you end up doing Haiti, and then you end up doing,
That's when we came back from Haiti and the gunships went away, so I transitioned to the combat Talon.
Okay.
And then I did what amounted to early style man-day bombing at Hurlburt. And I used to work for the 20th SOS running their mobility shop for about 3 or 4 years before I got the art job.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I learned all my mobility stuff, was those guys. They were some busy people.
Yeah, they were.
Busy people.
Did you ever get to do any flying with those guys?
I did. I got a couple of rides on the 53s. That was, I don't know what I expected. We'd been to survival school. We'd done the water survival. You get picked up by the helicopters and all that. I got picked up by a Huey, so it's that wah, 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 wah. You're sitting through all this. I got on a 53 and I was kind of expecting the same thing. That thing was a Cadillac. I mean, all the noise you would ever want, but just as smooth as glass everywhere they went.
Wow.
And I thought in the combat Talon we would do low level, and you would have what we would call these low level threat penetrations, where we would get fairly low.
Right.
And we'd scoot in trying to scooch under a radar or get past a threat or whatever. And I thought that was just awesome, because we're down, here's 150, 100 feet, we're scooting along at 250 knots. It was a blast.
Dang, dude. That is freaking, is insane.
And with the Talon, we had that reinforced ramp and door. We had the 250 knot tail back there because of the airdrops that we could do.
Right.
So we'd sit back there on the ramp as we're scooting along the beach. It was amazing. That was one of the best parts of that job. We'd call it ramp surfing.
Right.
And get back there and just right by it was cool.
Wow.
But, I thought that was just the cat's meow. It was awesome. And then I rode around on the 53s. I had one of the gunners that worked back in the mobility shop. He's like, why don't you come with us? And I'm like, yeah, okay. I got no issue with this. Let's go. We were shooting down this gas pipeline up in the north end of the county, and we were popping up over fence posts.
Holy cow.
It was exhilarating and terrifying and awesome all at the same time. Because I'd make it terrified. It was scary later. At the time, it was like, oh, this is cool. Those guys loved it because they got this Talon guy that's in the back going, this is awesome. Plus, I got to shoot the guns, so that really helped.
Oh, that's
a lot.
legit.
I get to burn someone else's ammo. Yes, let's go. But I got to do it twice. I wish I'd have done it a lot more. That is just an amazing machine.
Yeah, I hated that we got rid of them. I was hoping that, like in the Navy.
I thought they were going to cross-deck it. I was kind of surprised when they just dumped the whole program. Like, yeah, we don't need that. So.
Yeah, because, in the Navy, hey, whenever you've got a ship they get rid of, hey, it goes to the reserve. So I'm thinking, dang, well, surely they'll send the payloads to the reserve.
I would love to have seen that as an aircrew member, but maintenance probably would not have appreciated that.
Oh yeah,
that was one of the big problems with the Paves was with the 53s. They were a little maintenance intensive. Is probably the polite way to put it.
Gotcha.
And so, but that's where I really thought they were going to cross-deck it to something a little bit newer, a little bit more reliable. It was just take this radar, put it right here, and go do it again, and they just didn't do that.
Yeah.
AFSOC was busy at the time trying to justify the CV-22, so...
Oh, yeah. What, all right, so you end up getting the yard slot, and that would have been, you said 99
I got the job, I did my first day on the job in December of 2000.
Okay.
And I'd been hired right about early February, March time frame, but it just took that long to percolate through.
Gotcha.
And I did my first payday or first civil service hour in December of 2000.
Okay.
Wound up at the operations desk, which is, I think it was kind of a holding tank to figure out what to do with people when you didn't know where to put them. You didn't know what their skill sets were, so they put you down here where you would get exposed to all these different things that are going on, scheduling and communications and reporting and keeping track of airplanes and running crews out and all this other business. It was just the central place where everybody came to go fly. You would come in and get your orders, you would check in, you would sign off all your stuff, make sure you're all ready to go, and then you would go get your airplane and go do your thing. Our job was to coordinate all that down at the operations desk.
Gotcha.
And so that's where I sat for my first, give or take year or so, working with Burt Brinkley and Jim Strength and all these other guys down there. So
okay. So you get hired 12 of 2000, December of 2000.
Yep.
9/11's right around the corner, man. How does that go down with you guys?
I had been, pulling man-days with the 20th doing mobility. Well, that kind of transitioned up to Duke. So along about 2000, I'd been working in a mobility shop too. So this will feed in here in just a minute. Fast forward to September, and it's an absolutely gorgeous day. It's clear as a bell. One of the most remarkable colors of blue in the sky. I remember to this day how blue it was. It was just amazing. And we're getting ready for the morning go. We had a couple of birds going out. We had one going out doing a pro, and one was going to go out and do some kind of drops. I can't remember what right now. But anyway, I had a couple of planes getting ready to go out. And Dave Neenan from over at the maintenance shop, maintenance control, calls me and says, hey man, are you watching the news? And I'm like, nah, we're getting ready to go. And he goes, I want to turn that on. Somebody just flew a plane into the World Trade Towers. And we're all like, okay. Well, we turn it on. We're thinking a helicopter. We're thinking a Cessna. Mm-hmm. We look and we see this massive fire, and we're like, that's huge. What in the world's going on? And of course, I'm surrounded by airline pilots, right? There's all kind of pilots that are like coming in, and they're like, God, that thing's gigantic. What hit that? And then the news reports start talking about, this airplane that flies into it, and there were various reports, and they're like, what kind of idiot would fly, a 757 into the side of this building? I mean, how in the world do you screw that up?
Right.
We're all still thinking in terms of accident. And we're standing there, all of us discussing this when the second plane comes in and hits.
Ooh.
And just that sinking pit, like, oh shit, we're under attack.
Yeah.
And it just clicked on all of us right about that time. And Tom Mason was there, and he gets the big screen turned on downstairs. Tom Mason was there. I called up and was like, hey guys, you don't want to watch this, because they had TV up in the office. And I guess they were watching upstairs. He goes and gets the big screen turned on down in the briefing room. We had I don't know how they had it hooked up, but anyway, they strung something together so we could watch the TV down there. So we had it playing down there. And then there's like an hour where it's just like, what in the world? You know, just that's, and I don't want to make it sound like an hour, it just seemed like an hour. Within about 30 minutes, the phone starts ringing. Hey, we got to do this. Hey, we got to do that. Hey, flying is canceled. Get some guys out there and start pre-flighting airplanes. So we were going to go out and start pre-flighting ceiling airplanes. We broke out the book, and at the time, we didn't have FP cons. We had threat cons. And we knew that they were going to be changing from threat con. We were all in alpha, and nobody called and said anything. And we're like, well, clearly we're under an attack. We need to start going through this checklist. And we started running the checklist for Bravo, and then they call in and say, okay, we're threat con Charlie. And so it's like, we need to start consolidating things, getting guards posted. I think we called over to security forces to about getting that done. It was just such busy pandemonium. Like the next 6 hours were a friggin' blur.
Right.
We were trying to get things coordinated, running checklist, and then somewhere through this, somebody calls in and says, hey, they just called Delta. We heard about the Pentagon. We heard about Pennsylvania. And they're looking at, they're landing planes everywhere. I mean, there's no flying. Everybody's canceling. Everybody's planes all over the place. And we're just listening to all this and trying to sort out where we need to be going next. And it's like, hey, boss, we're in ThreatCon Delta, and according to this, we need to be getting people out of here. We don't need to have anybody here that shouldn't, that doesn't need to be here. I guess it got dark. I don't even remember. The sun went down. We were just meetings and phone calls and getting this done and getting that done and getting. When I say that, I'm talking about putting kits together, putting rigging kits together, verifying all this on the airplanes.
Right.
Looking at maintenance, trying to figure out how many planes they could get ready to go, get fast. And finally, the squadron commander comes down and he goes, all right, we're done here. Nobody's flying. Nobody's deploying right now. Everybody go home. And you start driving home. It's dark. And it's just like, holy shit, we're at war. And we don't even know with who.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we were sitting there thinking that there's 50,000 dead in the towers. We had no idea how many people had died. Everything is just 24/7 World Trade Center attack. It was just a long, hard set of days. I came back the next morning because you're a technician, right? You show up for work. And obviously things were going to get busy. I came back the next morning. There were armed guards at the door checking an EAL to let us in. They let me in the building. I walked up to the ops desk. I had set down my stuff, and I was just getting ready to start logging in. And Squadron Commander comes down. And I never worked at the operations desk again.
Wow.
I was in mobility from that point through probably the end of 2005.
Okay.
But I started straight away the 8th SOS Squadron on the active duty side. They were going to get out of town, and they were asking for help, so I was trying to help them get set. We got them moved out. We had our first go in, I say it was like October. I want to say the 11th, but I think that's probably a little bit late. I'm not 100% sure on the date when they actually left. But we got them all set up and ready to go, and then it just fell into training, a routine there of getting guys ready for the day, because nobody knew what was happening. We didn't know if this was going to be, the usual AFSOG little Panama invasion where it's a 2-month thing and it's over with.
Right.
It's going to be a long-term, like Somalia style engagement or what. So they sent these guys out. We know now, of course, they went to Oman, but at the time we weren't supposed to tell anybody anything about where they went.
Right.
So the wives are all like, hey, can you, sorry, I don't know, I can't tell you what I don't know, etc. Just trying to keep that going, and they were totally incommunicado. They weren't allowed to send messages back. There was no internet. There was no phone calls back. There was no cell phone. They were just over there. And so we organized a way to get care packages to them. We got a pallet full of care packages sent over. And then we found out, hey, they're coming back December 20th. And then we found that out in mid-November that they were going to be coming back. They were going to retrograde from there. But we were sending other guys out. So we'd send a crew here. We'd send a plane there and a crew there. And we'd send planning staff out. So I didn't know where they were winding up at the time. Most of them were ending up at Jacobabad. But then they sent a detachment over to Karshikanabad. And I think they got there in December of 2001. And Karshikanabad had played a pretty big role in the next couple of years for us because that's where we were operating out of.
That's Pakistan, isn't it?
That's Uzbekistan.
Okay, gotcha.
And it was like literally just north of Afghanistan.
Gotcha.
Jacobabad was in Pakistan.
Okay.
And Pakistan at the time they were really trying to accommodate us. They were trying to help us out pretty good. It just, when Christmas rolled around, the guys all came back. That was a big hoorah party. And then I got told, hey, you're on the next go. I come in with the crews that are going out, and they sent 3 crews over with the airplane. 2 crews went out on the cattle car. I was on one of the ones going out on the cattle car over. So we went up to BWI, hopped, at the time, the charter bird that went from Baltimore down to Instr, I think is where we got off at.
Okay.
And then we jumped on a C-17 and flew to Karshikanabad. And I remember getting off this C-17. Mind you, it's January 8th or 9th in Uzbekistan. Back up just a little bit. I had bought my first house that December before I knew this was coming.
Yeah.
So we were in a mad scramble trying to get moved into the house, and it's like, I gotta go. And my wife's like, we got this. And I packed my stuff, not knowing. I honestly, when I got back, I couldn't even find my house. I knew where it was, but I could not figure out which road to turn down to find it.
Oh man,
it was that level hurried, right?
Yeah.
My wife laughs at me about that to this day. But I got over there. I went over with you remember Kevin Nicholson, Divot?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
Went over with him and Mike Pfister, Paul Malura, Paul Munyon, Jim Phillips, PJ Walker, Gene Hardy, and John Garrett was my crew. That's the names. That first crew you'll never forget, right?
Yeah.
And we went over there, and it was like the worst living conditions. This place was friggin' terrible. I got off this airplane, and there's icicles this long hanging off the prop of a 130 sitting next to me.
Holy cow.
It's muddy slush, and I'm sitting there going, what the hell have I gotten myself into? It's like, this is a frozen hell. I wasn't counting on this. And I'm just like, oh, this sucks. And this little corporal, and I say little because she was a small woman, little corporal comes walking up to us, and she goes, I need you to get in a column of 2s. We are going to march from here over to this facility to in-process you and get you set up to collect your gear. I need that column of 2s to form here. And we all just kind of look at her. And John Garrett looks at her and goes, sweetheart, that's not going to happen. I need you to show us where you want us to go.
Right.
And she looks at him like he's got a third eye growing out of his head or something. Like she just doesn't, it doesn't compute with her.
Oh yeah, it's the Army. It does not compute.
We're going to get in line and we're going to walk over here and you're going to do what I tell you to do. But John's like, nope, not going to do that. You just show us where we're going to go. And finally, I think it was Jim Phillips. It's like, no, he's right. We're just going to walk over. You just show us where to go. So this gaggle of about 30 of us walk over there to go in his tent, and you could see the sweat dripping off her because she didn't do what her staff sergeant told her,
Right.
We walk in, and we do all the in-processing stuff you have to do, and they finally find us a tent, park us in that, get set up. We were flying, 2 days later?
Oh wow.
The planes were already there, and we did our little orientation. Our pilots did their orientation flight. We didn't get one. Loadmasters. We just kept, here you go. This is where we're going.
Right.
and we landed in Bagram that first night, and I'm just like, it was surreal, cool, and I gotta say, while Karshikanabad was some of the worst living I've ever done, that was the best, most rewarding flying I've ever done in my career. I've never had it that good.
Wow.
We were doing everything that you wanted a combat Talon to do, with the exception of doing the TF because there were threats out there. The threat was pretty reduced by that point as far as aviation threats. Still had manpads, still had AAA, but that really wasn't that. It wasn't. We're always flying in the middle of the night. Nobody, they can't see you, they can't shoot you. And light discipline was paramount for what we were doing. But that's just the most rewarding flying I ever had. Flying.
Yeah, I remember.
Solid crews, solid people. I just couldn't have asked. Except maybe somewhere would have been nice.
Gotcha. I remember I don't know if you remember this guy. He's with the 8th. He was one of the active duty guys. Ep13.
Yeah, I know Opie.
Opie died.
When did that happen?
That happened a couple summers ago. Heat stroke.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
I never heard that.
But I remember talking to Opie, and he had been a shout out to his family. But yeah, Opie was a good friend. I used to go to church with him. And,
I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but I remember asking him because he was a flight engineer, and that stuff just did not appeal to me at all. But he's like, 20 years of flying, and probably when it came down to it, just 20 days of the most magnificent flying that you can imagine.
And almost every one of them's out of Afghanistan.
Yeah. Well, regretfully today, I have to tell you guys that I found out that 2 of our episodes, the one featuring Bobby Barton and the other one featuring Andy Vogel, both SMAs, Special Mission Aviators, and both of them being Loadmasters and CAAs. Unfortunately, halfway through those videos, we ended up experiencing some technical difficulties where we actually lost a good portion of the sound on those videos. So unfortunately, I'm going to list these as part 1s on both of them, and go ahead and do a re-attack on a part 2 with them. So my apologies. They're great interviews, they're great stories that I want to capture for you guys. So once again, stick with me. It's less than 20 episodes, so I can afford to make a few of these screw ups just as long as I'm not making them later on. So thanks for your patience, and once again, we'll get these out in part 2s. So have a good one, and once again, like, subscribe, and share, and have a little bit of grace for my technical difficulties. Thank you so much. See you guys later. Bye.